So we still are supposed to be doing the right thing. We're supposed to be doing what's right for the town. We're supposed to be making neighborhoods look rural like they want it to look. Okay? Nobody wants any changes? Okay, fine. We don't think,
You could still exempt residential in these areas and still have it apply to all businesses.
okay, well,
That we could
this
do.
is a democracy, so we can take a vote. Me, I don't want to change anything. I think
Okay.
it's exactly what it should be. We don't really want cars. This is actually one of the discussions we had when they put up the multiple two-family houses on whatever street that is. We didn't want cars parking in the front yard, and now all of a sudden we're saying we're going to exempt residential. That's kind of a crazy thing to do. I don't know if discriminate's the right word. We should find another word. That sounds pretty serious.
Well,
But whatever. I mean, again, if somebody comes and the only place they can park is in the front yard, let them go for a variance. But we don't want to drive down the street and look at cars on people's front yards. That's the point behind this. So, does anybody else have an opinion?
Where are we?
still sticking with it.
Are we still at I?
Yeah, well, commenting on what Alan's saying, that he thinks
Yeah,
it's
but then-
discriminatory for residential to be included in the parking regulations. This is the
Well-
area we're supposed to be doing it.
Then you have, on the next page, you have specific regulations dealing with development two, with DEB 1 and 2, which specifically excludes residential.
Okay. It's
So-
different zones. All these zones that
Okay.
we're covering are the ones that are in the area that we're doing everything else on. I mean, we're saying what kind of housing you can go there. I mean, why isn't it discriminatory? I mean, you could say it's discriminatory
have
that we allow
parking lots-
two-family houses down here, we don't allow it up there.
You have parking lots shall be screened from view but from the street by a building or street screen,
That is true.
even
That's
for
what we-
residential.
Well, residential actually is set back to the further back. So that really doesn't need to be screened. This is really for for instance, like the.
I know what it's for, but it still applies to residential. By definition, it does.
No, what, do you see it listed in here? So-
Yes, because it says TC, T3C, T3D, and T3BB, which includes residential.
That's right.
So therefore, it applies to them.
If you're putting, residential areas are not putting surface parking lots in. I mean, that's pretty clear. The residential's not putting a surface parking lot. I mean, they're not, that's for like a large parking area.
Yeah, but it could be a smaller, what happens if it's a carport? Instead of a
Well,
garage?
their building line is further back than the road. This is for parking that's along along the line, kind of similar to what was going on when we had the whole discussion with, the Urbano project, where the parking was that's really not what we're trying to do. That's what we, tried to encourage with the trailer area, but that got ignored by the enforcement officer, so they get to do what they want. But that was the whole idea. You're trying to keep it rural, you're trying to keep trees there, you don't really want to be looking at cars. Everybody wants everything to look the same, but yeah, we don't even have anybody to enforce it, so it's kind of defeats the purpose, but. So, can we come back to this since?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm just gonna say, page 69 on the left, it says, under specific zones, Dev 1, Dev 2, B1, GB, GBA, it refers to table 4.1, but we got rid of table 4.1 when we went through this earlier.
What was table 4.1?
Table of general bulk regulations.
What
It
page
was
it?
about building height, on page 60. I think it was
Why do we
because
get
it
rid of
was,
this?
I think it was because, was it already included in the table in 3? Because it was about height. We
Yeah.
thought minimum height didn't make any sense. And we thought maximum was already in the table in section 3. It could be.
So did someone confirm that? I mean,
Well, what we had us doing was reconfiguring this to be the old, you said that the existing table was easier to read than this one, so we were moving,
where is that in here?
It's in section,
it starts on page 58.
yeah, sorry, it's the first 2 tables, the first 2 parts of section 4.
So what you had said was you wanted it to basically be what the existing table 3.1.3 is.
What page is the table on, Chris?
The
58?
table in these regs, in the proposed ones, is page 58.
But there's a,
And
sorry,
then
it's
it
table
continues on
4.1 on
59.
But
and-
4.1 is right here on page 60.
Right, 58, 59, and 60, but
60.
it was the part on page 60 that we got rid of because it was about building height. We didn't see the
Right.
need for building height, right?
I mean,
Yep.
maximum,
Maximum, minimum was new, we didn't see the need for minimum, right?
So you had deleted minimum and you left the maximum
left
because that
maximum,
was
sorry.
already there.
So 4.1 is in or is out?
Yeah, so 4.1 is in, I misspoke, sorry.
Okay.
But figure 4.1, we don't really have a figure 4.1, but I think it's the shared parking factor on page 68, so we just need to label it figure 4.1.
Okay, so let's go back to 68. Wait a minute, so, okay, but if you look at, okay, maybe I'm not following, but,
it's table.
so specific to zones, development one, Dev 1, Dev 2, B1, GB, GBA, maximum density on the parcel shall be determined, blah, 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 with table 4.1 as it may apply.
Right, but if you go to 2 below, parking requirement shall be adjusted according to the shared parking factor in figure 4.1.
So that's the one that
I think
needs
it's
to-
figure 4.1, it needs to be labeled on
Well,
page
no,
68.
Well,
The
but,
lower one.
but you already have
No,
4.1.
figure, this is figure, not table. I don't know why it's not a table, but
Why don't we just call it a table 4.3?
that's fine with me. We deleted the other table 4.3, so that works for me.
We did already
No, we
name,
haven't deleted 4.3 yet, we haven't
I
gotten.
mean,
Page
bottom-
62,
Bottom of page 62, we deleted that.
we deleted it.
Oh, well, there's another 4.3 on page 70.
Well, that's a good thing that we deleted the first one then.
So now we don't have a,
I don't care what we call shared parking factor, but it looks like the regs refer to it as figure 4.1 without labeling it as figure 4.1, because it refers to shared parking factor.
why did we eliminate never mind, I wasn't here.
This is what you get for missing a meeting, Jeff.
Yeah. I kind of want to agree with you, but I get it. So I'm gonna agree with you.
I don't care
For the
if we
sake
call
of
it,
moving on.
I don't
So-
care if we
So
call
you're
it,
telling me we can't use 4.3, is that the bottom line here?
well, if we do, we have to then relabel.
Where's the second
table
4.3?
on page 70.
Oh, okay, so let's, how about if we call it 4.2A?
well, 4.4.
Well, I was
We-
trying to keep them together, I
Oh,
We
guess.
can do 4.3 and because we're renumbering whole bunches of things.
No, I
anyway.
think we should call it 4.2A. It all has, they both have to do with parking. So let's do a 4.2A.
Okay, and so we'll change that in here.
Where was that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
In that table above it, the real 4.2,
Yep.
I guess what's T2? Isn't T2, I was confused why we had parking for T2. I guess.
rural.
Yeah,
We still allow things in T2.
Could be golf courses.
woodland,
Cemeteries.
agricultural land, grassland, and sports field golf courses and cemeteries. And And T3,
Well, it includes woodland, agricultural land, grassland, sports. It actually should be including schools too. For T2.
okay. So we have to add that back on page 3.
But the thing is still questionable because it says per dwelling unit, but there's no residential in T2, I agree. But there is residential in T3, correct?
Right, but
Okay.
there aren't medical offices in either, or retail in either.
Well, this is a new table. Do we really need it when we have parking spelled out in 5.5?
Where is 5?
Page 99
Thanks.
on the proposed.
Yeah, I get it.
Why do we have it in different places?
Well, because there's different,
It's too early to sound annoyed, Alan.
Wouldn't it make sense just to have all parking in one area?
Yeah.
well, it
Yes.
doesn't really work that
Well,
way.
that's why we stopped here, because we needed to look at 4 and 5. So if you got rid of table 4.2, because you have a more extensive table, 5.5 on 99,
Right.
I think that makes sense.
then you just have that other thing as table 4.2.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we need 4.2 at all.
Right.
So the only thing, so then let's just make the shared parking factor 4.2.
2.
How's
yeah.
that sound?
Yep.
Great,
I agree.
take it out.
All right.
And then in 3 on page 69, we just delete table 4.2 because it's just going to refer to table 5.5's parking.
Fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
This is,
Do we actually need the next paragraph?
which one?
Specific, the one at the top of column, the right-hand column on page 69? Because it's all about parking calculations per table 4.2,
4.2, which we've just deleted.
which we just deleted.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think so.
No.
This table also enables the calculation of allowable square footage and number of dwelling units allowed in each. To use the shared parking factor, divide the number by the.
Well, that's about the shared parking factor, which is the new table.
Well, we have 4.2 in here, so people can use that. We have it in here.
So are we leaving that in?
I think we just leave parking calculations to use the shared parking factor,
Start just
divide the
there.
number, and scratch the first 2 sentences.
Oh, I see. Did you get that, Chris?
So we start with to use
Yeah.
and go, and we get rid of the last thing.
And the table would be,
And it
oh,
was just going to be
4.2.
see example
Yeah, okay,
on page.
okay.
Are we referencing to table 5.5 then?
Well, no,
that-
in that one, you still keep it at 4.2, because 4.2 is shared parking factor.
Okay,
Exactly.
so we're going to leave it as shared parking.
Okay, so parking location and private way standards, where possible, parking shall be accessed by realized lanes. Okay, we don't actually need that anymore, because we've eliminated anything that's gonna do that. So we can eliminate 1 there. Is that cool?
Fine.
Feel free to jump in and say no.
Wait a minute, what are we deleting?
Number 1 under A.
Under A, okay.
So, surface parking lots shall be screened from the view. So this is in, so you can, on this one, in this one, you can pull out the residential. Because it really doesn't, this screening isn't really for the residential, because the residential's in the second, goes into the third.
So
third
it's
layer?
just Dev 1, Dev 2, B1, GB, GBA?
I think,
Yeah?
And T1 and T2,
Right.
because that's where you have,
right.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Golf
so
courses.
T3C, T3D,
All the T3s.
T3BB, okay,
those drop, and we
Yeah.
start with T1, T2, and then go into Dev.
right,
Okay.
okay.
And get rid of
And
S1.
just say,
Right.
and just, where
Right.
you have is surface parking lots.
If there is service, if that's what they end up putting in, we want it to be screened. I mean, it's a good thing, I promise you.
I have no-
Okay, good. Okay, so this is, so all the, well, the T2 and T3, well, T3C, T3D, T3BB, those are residential. So that's back in our third lots. That's where everybody parks their car now, by the way. And we didn't have any control to stop that guy from letting cars park in the front, which, by the way, if you drive down the street, they're all parked in the front yard. Just so you know how it doesn't work. That doesn't work. Driveways, drop-offs, and unpaved parking areas. I don't think we really want unpaved parking areas. That's just like dirt. So I would just say service parking lots shall be located in the second and third lot layers. However, driveways, drop-offs,
It could be a gravel base. and
yeah,
that's
but
not-
unpaved, but we don't really want cars parked there.
It fits into your country town, though, Joe.
What, the
Unpaved parking.
unpaved roads, but the
I
thing,
get- I
well, this is
understand.
unpaved parking areas, not driveways. So I would stop it and I would take out unpaved parking areas may be located in the first layer lot and shall be limited to 5. So I would take that out.
Can you park in your driveway?
Yes, you can.
And only temporarily.
Well, it's always temporary.
Really?
Determines how long.
There's never been a car permanently
Only
parked
parked.
anywhere.
Only in Hamden, when they had those ones buried under asphalt.
That's right.
True.
Okay,
That was
Okay, so I
garages are,
just deleted and unpaved.
right,
parking
everything
areas.
after that. Garages shall be located in the third lot layer, however, side and rear entry garages may be allowed in the first or second layer. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm moving on to C until somebody stops me.
I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna go back up to the first paragraph where it says about using the shared parking factor, divide the number of required parking spaces. I think we need to say divide the number of required parking spaces, see table 5.5, by the sharing factor, and then we have to see the example below table 4.2. All right? Well, it's confusing otherwise, so,
Okay,
all right.
so what are we saying?
It is still confusing.
Actually, I don't understand why we don't, if you're gonna, I mean, I agree, it's not clear, but to use the shared parking factor, refer to table 4.2.
But it's telling you how to use it. And because the number of required spaces aren't in that table, the number of required spaces are in table 5.5.
Not for shared parking.
Yeah, they are.
In 5.5?
Oh, shared. Well,
No, just shared.
So required are in 5.5,
Shared is
Right.
only-
and then you have to use the
Right.
sharing factor from 4.2,
Right.
which we've.
So use the shared parking factor.
Okay.
Refer to,
So we're just, so we're still keeping
No, you're
that
right.
same
Oh, okay.
last
yeah,
oh, good.
last two sentences.
okay. So to use the shared parking factor.
Every once in a while. Okay. Yeah, to use the shared parking factor, refer to table 4.2.
Right, okay.
Okay. Okay, now we're going on to C.
And we're on
Yeah.
six.
Got it. Yeah,
Driveways at frontage of single-family residence shall be no wider than 12 feet in the first layer. Okay, whatever. Driveways at frontage, these are good things, by the way. I mean, seriously, this is like, if people want to park on the street, that's one thing, but the idea is you don't really want people's front yards to become parking lots. And this, by the way, stops people from putting up 2-family houses and 3-family houses and putting parking in the street. Okay. Driveways or frontages for mixed use or in non-residential shall be no wider than 18 feet in the first layer. Okay. Oh, come on, let's keep that 12, but I'm gonna be quiet. I'm going on to D.
Right.
All parking area and garages shall be located in the third layer, that's correct. A minimum of one single bike stall should be provided for every 10 actual vehicle space. Okay, where is this? Dev 1, Dev 2,
Business,
it's all
it's
business.
all business.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Specific to SD1, which we've taken out, so that's really
Well,
Dev.
but SD1 is now Dev
Dev
2.
Yeah, I know it. That's why I'm laughing.
so we deleted these diagrams, though, that talk about the layers,
Why?
because they didn't make sense to us. But now they make sense to us, meaning they appeared before the description of what they were referring to.
Okay, so can we put them back in because they're pretty serious?
Of course we can, but maybe we would position them after these sections.
Is this the only time that we talk about the layers and the,
Well, we talked about them earlier, but we actually changed some of that language. That was a couple sections ago. But this
Okay.
is really, this is pertinent too, because it's the parking,
It's
the-
huge.
Right, so
It's
we do
huge.
need to keep them.
I mean, it refers to, it talks about fencing, talks about heights of fencing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it talks about a lot of things, so,
Well, these are the layers only for residential.
no.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that may be, but we don't, we kinda need to leave them in there, guys. I know I wasn't here, but,
Well, I thought there was another place where we had a diagram of layers.
We don't have layers with respect to business areas?
no. It's mostly, usually residential, because in business areas,
yeah, this is T.
like in retail and things like that, everybody wants the parking areas in front of the
Okay.
building, so it's
Yeah,
kind of a
Under,
hard thing to.
under definitions, I think you had a cleaner one. It was on page 12. And you very clearly show first layer, second layer, third layer.
Yeah, but what we're talking about are the diagrams.
Right, and these diagrams refer to T3C, T3D, and T3BB, so we
Yeah.
do need to keep them here,
Yeah.
where we're talking about the parking.
Okay, so I'm gonna,
Leave
instead
them
of
in there.
deleting these, I'll say keep.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Am I on page 70? Yeah. Okay, specific to zone Dev 1, Dev 2, B1G, all open projects will be located in the third layer. So this is because we really want the parking areas behind the building. And remember, this is for new stuff. We can't do anything
Oh,
about
I
the
know
stuff
that.
that already exists.
Yeah.
Okay. A minimum of one, okay, we've got that. Okay, so we're in E, specific to Dev 2. Oh, that's what I was on, all Dev, parking lots, garages. Third layer, okay. Next to the parking lot, shall be no wider than 18 feet at the frontage. Pedestrian exits from all parking lots shall be directly to a frontage line. Okay, so I don't have any problem with E, unless somebody else does.
No.
Okay. Let's go up to 4.3, landscape standards. Specific to zones. Okay, so I'm glad we took out the other thing, because this one says the first layer may not be paved. Of course, the other one was saying
Non-paved.
unpaved, right. Okay, fine. Are those tables right? 5?
You're taking that out though, that may not be paved, right?
We took that out.
Okay.
We're not even putting it in, right? And this is, it can't be paved either. Okay, this is good, T1, T2.
Can I just ask you a question?
Well,
Dev 2 is non-residential except nursing, assisted living, and rehabilitation,
No.
right?
That's in Dev 1.
That's Dev 1, okay. Then I must have just written that wrong.
let's go back and look.
Dev 1, commercial unlimited residential uses and mixed
Commercial
use.
unlimited residential use, oh yeah.
And 2 is
Industrial.
mixed-use industrial district with
Okay.
commercial
Actually,
and walkable links.
And we crossed off the limited residential and apartment style in Dev 2. Yep, thank you, okay.
thank you, sorry.
That's good. Minimum of 2 trees shall be planted within the first layer of each 30 feet of the front row. Again, this is a good thing. Trees may be single or multiple species as shown until, that's a good thing. Blah, 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 blah. Okay,
What's the unnaturally clustered tree?
can we talk at 11?
Okay, fine.
Let's talk at 11.
Yes, sir.
Feel free to send any questions like that on emails. So this is, that's in T1, T2. What's P?
Park.
Oh, park.
Park.
Okay. Specific to zones, that's residential, Dev 1, Dev 2, the other ones, B1, GB, okay. Minimum of 1 tree should be planted within the first layer for each 30 feet of the frontage, okay. Trees shall alternate species between 2 species, whatever,
And
okay,
then the special district, yes.
yeah.
Dev
Okay,
1. One question before we get off this page. This table,
yes.
where the hell is it ever referred to?
Right. Where is it?
Well, okay, so let's, make a note of that, and as we go through, hopefully we'll find it.
And
That's
it's
why
only
I have a
private
note on it.
roadways. And if you read the definition of road, a private road is treated like a public road.
As far as,
A private road's supposed to be the same thing as a public road
where are you reading that?
in the definition section of roads,
Okay, let's look at it.
or at least that's what it used to say.
What is it, roads?
Yeah.
What's it under?
Roadway?
A road is any street, road, drive, or lane, public or private. On page 15.
Okay,
Okay.
I see that.
So the table is only for private roadways, but if it's private, then private's the same as public,
Public.
the same as lane, the same as,
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I
So,
don't know.
now I get your point.
okay.
So we should,
Just say roads.
Yeah, more importantly, where the hell is
It's
it?
not referred to anywhere.
Anywhere.
And,
Yeah.
It just sits there.
and these are speeds,
Yes.
and speeds
We
are
have
determined
nothing
by
to-
the police, not by us.
Exactly, that was the other thing.
well, yes, that's true, but we can, okay, I think we should take this out. I'll say that first. And second, so far, until we find it someplace else. Second, we're allowed to put in our zoning what speed we want on the roads. The police have to enforce it, that's true, but we can say these are the maximum speeds we want on certain roads going through areas. So we're allowed to do that.
Okay.
But having said that, I'm gonna go back to what I first said, which was,
We
it
could
out.
take this
we're
out.
probably gonna take this out.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so this will be interesting if we find this someplace else.
Because
Again, this is really more for, well, whatever, it doesn't matter, because we're not doing that. Okay. Okay, we have 4.4A?
Yep.
Okay, purpose of the special district one is to improve the existing care of the area by making the zone complete by allowing for living plan, working processes.
That's all.
There's just so many words in here. Okay.
There.
Okay, we're going down to signage?
Oh, can I just bring up one thing before I forget it?
Yes.
What would make your things work better with the layers, you know, 1, 2, 3s on something new, is in the table 4.1, we're on Amity Road.
On which page?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 59.
Okay, 58.
On Amity Road, it tells you that the buildings have to be, the front yard setback is 60 feet,
Yeah.
and everywhere else it's 10. So the 60 feet by default pushes everything back, and so if we left everything at 10 feet, then that makes your building able to be closer to the road, and by default, allows the parking to be at the rear. But by requiring that buildings can't be any closer than 60 feet, I mean, that's why you have the development that you have along Amity Road, because,
Well, residential, I mean, commercial is allowed to put parking in front.
no, this is the buildings.
Yeah, I
On
know,
the-
but we're not gonna tell Amity Road to put their buildings at 10 feet from the road, are we?
I thought that's what you wanted.
Every place on Amity Road? We're
No,
gonna
no, this is,
put- Okay, sorry. I'm not.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay, I'm
In BI and in GB, the lower part of Amity, in your commercial district, it's 60 feet back. And
Right.
I think you'd want it 10 feet back rather than 60.
So if they took out the place where they sell the trailers and they put a new building up there, it's gonna
Then-
be 10 feet off the road?
Isn't that what you want? I thought that layer-wise, you wanted the buildings close to the road and you wanted the parking behind.
Commercial is not gonna allow. Well, where else do we make it? Let's see.
The only place that's 60 feet is on Amity Road.
Yeah, exactly.
So Litchfield Turnpike.
Well, it's
and-
kind of a busy road, and the other problem is, in commercial, because that's what's gonna be built there, commercial, like developers, chains, they don't like parking behind the buildings. So that's why the 60 feet is on Amity Road.
Then that doesn't jive with your parking layers and whatnot. Because those lots are shallow.
I understand. Well, how far back is the trailer building is back more than 60 feet.
Yeah.
And,
It was just,
no, I'm just
I mean,
trying,
for the longest
I'm
time,
not, I'm not dismissing what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just think out loud through, that's all. So
yeah,
don't
it
take it as
just,
anything other than that.
Monroe Building is back, People's Bank is back, the 214 Amity, that little shopping plaza, that's why that's back.
But the parking goes in front.
Right.
I know,
So-
I get it. The parking that we're talking about in back is really more for developments, like for housing and things like that. Like if someone did condos or mixed use, you have to have some parking in front. You won't get a chain to even touch us, not that they touch us now, if we don't allow any parking in front of a commercial strip. So we'll keep that in the back of our head.
Yeah, if you can
as
keep
we're
that in the
going
back of your
along
head.
here.
And one other quick thing, we had a ZBA meeting last week, and we had someone who came in, and you are doing the table for residential A and B, and they had a house that was only 3% of the lot, where it can be 12% of the lot coverage, and they wanted to put up a third accessory building. They happened to be an artist, and he wanted to have a storage, move it out of New York and have it up here. And he was denied because he's already got 3% coverage by the barn studio and a garage. And so the applicant tried to make the case that the house was only 3%, the house couldn't exceed that because of the placement of the well and all this other stuff. And so the ZBA members thought that the appropriate place for them to come was here. So there is an application that will be coming to you regarding in residential A, taking the 3% accessory and the 12% residential and just combine them into 15% total coverage.
Is there any way they can connect them? Because that's actually what most towns do. If you connect it, it's not a
And
problem.
it doesn't-
But separate buildings are separate buildings, so that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, well, in this case, you can't connect them because there's a driveway between the two other ones and.
And how about the third, not that we're supposed to be discussing their application.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just
But
saying.
what about the third building that they want to put up? That can't be connected to any one of those things?
Not because of the septic and the well. So the idea was just, if coverage is coverage and coverage is, 3% and 12%, do you just let somebody decide, is coverage
Yeah.
15%
Right.
and they dole it
Right.
out themselves and it's a max of 15? So I'm just bringing it up because
Okay,
there was
interesting.
something in my
Okay,
head.
cool. All right.
I'm going to point out that 4.4, is that Dev 1 or Dev 2? It says Dev Special District 1.
That would be Dev 2.
I see.
Which has no residential,
Well,
yet we
this is
talk
a-
about
this-
living
Yeah, this is.
and playing and learning.
Well, you can play and learn, but I get it.
Mixed use for living.
This is the whole mixed use thing.
And it says the purpose of Special District 1, right in the first line, is to improve the existing character of the area by. So I just don't know which, in your notes, Chris, you said, since SD1 has been previously eliminated, this section should be deleted.
Right. Because this section is talking about residential uses
Right, Right.
enhancing.
so should 4.4 just go completely?
Okay, hold on one second.
That was my question.
Community gardens.
Why? What is Div, what are we doing in Div
Talks
2?
about housing needs of the neighborhood by including new housing opportunities.
Mixed-use industrial district and commercial, walkable links between passive and active recreation. So the only thing that's different in here is where we talk about residential. Originally, we had residential in there, and we've since taken it out
Right,
because we weren't changing that. So,
What is the purpose of this 4.4?
well, it's to give the purpose of the special district as a residential district, I think, which we got rid of, right? I mean, I think it's addressing what has since been
Well, so this
deleted.
is the unfortunate thing about us pulling out living in apartments, because we wanted to create mixed use in these areas, and
Right,
now we've
now with
decided
that-
to
Right, and because
screw the
we-
town and take that out of there.
Right, but because we pulled it out,
But-
I don't think this is
But you,
pertinent.
no, that's not to say it doesn't apply. You still want walkable links between these things. You can still do recreation in those areas. You still can do commercial,
No,
so.
it's there, but why do we need it here?
Right, it's in 4.4, Jeff, that I'm talking about, on page
Yeah.
71.
Leave
Well,
that
I'm-
exactly that way.
I'm just I'm just looking at what we're calling Dev 2, and I'm looking at this in description and purpose. So what's the same in here that's, other than the,
I mean, a mix of uses, maybe you put a period there in number 1.
Meeting the housing needs of the neighborhood by including new housing opportunities.
not in here, you can't.
That's what I'm saying.
So that has to,
Where is that? I don't know.
4.
4.
Okay, so that,
I mean, I think 1 needs to be edited, 2 is fine, 3 is fine, 4 needs to be deleted, because it talks about
3.
housing.
yeah.
5 is fine, and 6, well, will enhance the quality of life for nearby residents, maybe, because we talk about connecting
Neighborhood-
regions, right?
Neighborhood amenities, aesthetic, streetscape, new habitat. How does that will enhance the quality of life for? Yeah, okay, so
Just take out the residential areas.
I would,
Life,
yeah,
Including
Mm-hmm.
playgrounds, open spaces, and facilities.
so just stop it at quality of life,
Yeah.
enhance the quality of life. Oh my God. Okay, and then put in including playgrounds and open space.
Exactly.
Okay, and take out the living in number 1.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, cool.
4.5, A and B are exactly the same as what we have now.
Right.
Yeah.
C is exactly the same, and it shouldn't be, because it's referring to table 4.6.2.5.
Okay, hold on one second.
So in C1, we need to correct the sections it refers to.
So we have to fix the tables.
Yeah, it's just references.
Right, same in D.
So what are they supposed to be? So Chris knows what she's doing.
Well, Chris reviewed this, so.
Oh, right.
That's
What do you mean
on
Chris
the
reviewed it?
list.
I
She
didn't-
reviewed it and talked about where the references need to be corrected.
Where did you get that?
That's
That
what I
thing-
sent
A couple
you.
weeks ago, it's what she
Couple
sent a
weeks
few
ago.
weeks ago, and it's in the email that I sent with everybody tonight.
Okay. Okay, so we have the correct tables to fill in there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
In C, we have to reference the correct tables.
That's what I was talking about.
In D, we have to do the same.
As far as putting the correct tables in. Who's the duly authorized official officer prior to the erection? Shall be obtained from the commission or its duly authorized. I would just make it from the commission. I don't know why. Otherwise,
Where are you?
on number D, permit required.
Opening paragraph.
Pursuant to table whatever there are, a zoning permit or special exception for a sign shall be obtained from the commission.
Because some signs just get given by the zoning enforcement officer if they're replacing fascia or just, if they comply with what, in your table, some things just say a zoning permit, and the whole idea was just to let some people come in and take out a permit, and then other things, they would have to come before the whole commission to do something. So for instance, on
Yeah.
table, what says 4.6, it says wall signs for businesses. It's a zoning permit as long as they're within a certain size. But if they're over that size, then they come to you for a special exception.
So,
So the purpose of having that in there was
What,
to.
so what's the difference between a special exception and going for a variance?
A special exception is when they come to you and they have a public hearing.
But one of the reasons we're doing zoning regulations for signage is so that they don't come before us. They used to come before us all the time. As soon as they didn't like what we said, they immediately ran off and got a variance. So we have rules, this is what's allowed. If they don't like the rules, they go get a variance. Am I wrong about that? Does that make sense?
This was a table
I
that
don't-
you
I don't
came
think
up with
conceptually there
after
is a
that
difference
happened.
Between a special exception and a variance.
I don't think so
Oh,
either.
the variance normally is by the zone.
Oh,
Zoning
I
appeals.
realize it's a different.
That's true.
Yeah,
Board, but.
but we can impose conditions in special exceptions. And that was the point.
Oh, so we would
Remember?
lose control. If we say that it's only a variance, then we kind of lose control.
We lose
This makes them have to come to the commission or to.
Who set up
its
the sign
duly
regs.
authorized
Right.
office,
Okay,
That was
that's,
the point.
okay, that's a good point. Okay,
so we keep the way it is.
okay, I buy that. Because if we wrote the sign regs, what was happening was the variances, they just didn't care. They just,
Exactly.
looks
This way-
good to me, just give it to them. Okay. Okay. We're moving on?
Yes. Is table 4.4, is that referenced any place also?
I'm guessing that must be one of these things in
It's
here.
actually it's signs that are permitted anywhere. All these tables got
Screwed
moved
up?
around, yeah.
Okay,
So I need to play with them and get
Fine.
them back in the right
Okay.
sequence.
because I know it was, but it-
So that should have the heading, where you see E on page 73, that should precede table 4.4.
okay. So instead of the following types, are either there or say the signs specified in table 4.4
Right,
are
but
permitted in any zone without a zoning permit.
Okay, well, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, having the chart here and the E here doesn't seem so terrible.
No, but it just says the following.
it
types.
says the following types of signs. And so in the regs that we have now, that section is right for the table.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So the tables referred to here in these sections are the tables that follow.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Now, you had made a note.
By the way, this is a kind of a problem in most towns' regs because they have, it happens all the time, so they're, I mean, ideally you want everything in the right order, but I will say they move around. Okay,
Oh, all you have to do is just say the signs specified in table.
yeah, right.
That's all.
Right. So
And then you don't care where the table is.
Really. That's
So
what I would do.
before
I would
E-
just change it, I mean, if you, I would just change that to say, instead of the following types of signs, say,
So before E, it should say zoning or special permit, not zoning permit or
That's the
special
thing.
exception.
That's a continuation of D.
right.
Right.
That's left over from
Right.
D, kind of needs to go on the bottom.
Yep. E should come before table 4.4.
Yeah,
F,
Or just change the wording.
just change the wording to the sign specified.
sure, but, I mean, it's all gonna sort itself out as things get adjusted.
Yes.
We've
Yeah.
moved so much that, yeah, okay. F,
Well, you may want to change the wording so you don't have to worry about it too much. That's all
Well,
I'm saying.
one of the things that I asked is if, can we go back from 2 columns just to 1 page, because it makes it a lot simpler.
2 columns to 1 page for what?
You-
Oh,
See
I
how
see.
this is 2 columns?
Yes.
If it's all 1 page,
Oh.
then everything just fits better.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna be able to do that.
Well, it's easy to do, it's switching
It's not
from-
easy to do because Sheila's the one that has to do it.
No, I'm doing it.
No, Sheila's gonna be doing it on.
Has to be in a
Okay,
form
we'll
that
talk
I
about
can
it
use.
later.
Okay.
F is the same,
Right, G is the same.
but this says the proposed regulations are missing section 4.62, which says, and it needs to be inserted. The following types of signs are permitted for non-residential uses in any residential district, such as religious institutions, libraries, museums, art centers, historical societies, schools, municipal uses, nonprofit agencies, provided that any such signs shall comply with all other provisions of section 4. So where does that go? Does that go at the, does that become G1?
G refers to table 4.6. I think. Yep. G is table 4.6.
Non-residential uses in any, so we have a new section.
No,
Right.
we've always had non-residential.
Yeah, this is all,
It's
It's-
non-residential uses in any residential district. So
Right.
it goes in F. We add it as F2 after the table. I don't know, with other provisions of section 4.5, what's section 4.5? Signage, right. Yeah, so if it's F2, doesn't it work there?
Wait a minute, I just lost some pages. I don't know what I did with them. Yeah, I guess I didn't bring up all my pages. I don't know what I did with my pages from 75 to 81, so.
Well, it's,
what's it,
it's about
what's next is, next is
signs
secretary?
permitted for non-residential
Rosemary Woods.
uses in a residential district. Since F is about signs permitted in a residential district, it makes sense that one of the sub-headings could be, or sub-paragraphs could be, about
But,
non-residential use signs in a residential
but
district.
we had two tables. So in the existing one, what's table 4.6 in the, relates to non-residential uses in residential districts. And then the two that are here are solely what are the kinds that are only in residential districts. And that's why I'm saying this whole thing is just moved around and doesn't make sense. So 4.5 relates to F. And then table 4.5 relates to F, and table 4.6 relates to G.
No, because it's in A, B, and T3 districts, which are residential districts.
Right. They're non-residential uses in A, B, and T3.
Right, but G is non-residential districts,
Oh, I'm sorry.
all right? So that's why I'm
Yeah,
saying
you're right. I'm sorry.
F1 can be before table 4.5, and a new F2 with the missing section can appear before table 4.6.
Okay. Okay.
So
then-
G, H, I, J, K are, I mean, it talks about G needs to go before table 4.7, but that's all good. H, I, J, K are the same as they are now. K, 2 and 3 on page 79 are new.
The top of page 78. where it has C, D, E, F, G, and H, really goes to the bottom of page 73.
So we're talking about the tables.
No, the Ely Masonry signs, I think that,
Yeah, it's a continuation of,
Yeah.
at the bottom, it's just a continuation of,
Talking about 4.7.
yeah,
Yeah.
this really goes to the bottom of 73.
Okay. So the top left of 78 should go to the bottom of 73.
Yeah, bottom right of 73.
Okay.
I is 4.9.
That's fine.
J, sign illumination is 4.10.
And K1 is existing, 2 and 3 are new.
That's 4.11. Yeah. K is, K, sign design and review procedure is existing 4.11.
Right. The only 1, 2 and 3 are new.
No, they're not. It's 411.2, 411.3.
The sun things,
Yeah,
yep,
it's,
I didn't read the next page.
I thought I went over all this.
Oh, so they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
They're not new. Okay.
no, they're not.
No, this,
They're all existing.
Okay.
did you not read my email?
Okay, we finally got to 5.
And it's 8:30.
I'm gonna give you those back. I've got the rest of
Pretty
them.
good. It's only 8:30. I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
5 is basically Bob
I took
Cristola.
out a few.
Okay, so again, a lot of these things in here are to really preserve the rural characteristics of Woodbridge. But this is all. This is all already in here, all this stuff,
Uh,
I think, on my email.
Well, A on page 80 is already under the noise ordinance. Which
The
is-
hours of outdoor construction
Right,
is where?
it's under the noise ordinance, the town
Oh.
noise ordinance, which is enforced by the police department.
B is 5.1, 5.2. What did I say? I said something about, what about 5.2, destruction of 5.2 vacant, 5.4 and 5.4.
What my email that I sent? I thought I did all this already.
Yeah, you didn't say where they were coming from, but you said what was new and what wasn't new.
Well, so
I know.
it's from there.
Right.
It's 5.1, 5.2.
Okay.
B is just 5.1.1.
Right.
5.2 didn't get carried in, and
No.
I'm not sure that it's
Destruction of
actually,
non-conforming use.
right.
And the question I was asking was, why wasn't it?
I don't know.
well as vacant non-conforming
Conforming use.
use
Right.
was not carried over. Why not? I would.
Yeah, so it looks like we need to add in the existing 5.2 and 5.3.
Yes.
So,
And 5.4.
4 and 5.5.
well, change of use is C, and it's new. Right?
That's new, yes.
Right. And a non-conforming use may be changed to another non-conforming use. So it sounds like we need to fit in 5.2 and 5.3,
Hmm.
and I guess 5.4 before we
Correct.
then talk about other change in use, right? So 5.2, 5.3, 5.4 get added in. Buildings with a non-conforming bulk, 5.5. So we had 5.5 into buildings with non-conforming bulk.
Hmm.
All right. But all in section 5.2.
Yes.
All right.
It would just be D, E, F, whatever it is.
A, B, E, C. Yeah. Yeah. G, the admin. I'll let somebody else work out the outline. Jeff, you had said 5 point, that all the rest, oh wait a minute, that's 80.
I have a question on just this.
Which one? C,
The one under C.
no change in use?
A non-conforming use may be changed to another, subject to approval by the zoning board of appeals with the following conditions, and then it lists. Do we have a right to tell the ZBA what to do?
Yes, you can give them
Just
jobs.
Give
a
them
question.
guideline, yeah, we can give them
You
guideline.
can
I
give
just
them
didn't know.
jobs and the parameters in which,
Okay, I just didn't know.
yeah.
Fine.
And in this case, it wouldn't be a variance, it would just be them accepting an application to do that
Oh, okay.
and
I
having to find that they were in those parameters.
just didn't know. That's fine.
So environmental conditions is what we've been wanting to include for a while.
Where are you looking?
5.3.
5.3?
Well, 5.3 is limited to developments or communities, whatever that is.
You know,
But that's fine. I have no problems with it.
this is pretty standard stuff in other towns too.
No, I said that.
No, I know, I
Yeah,
know.
I have
I'm
no
just- I'm
problems
just,
with it at all.
I'm
I
just
think it
adding.
looks good.
Yeah.
And if it gets enforced, we'll be in good shape.
And then 81 to 90, you said was from Bob Criscola? Right.
Yes, yes. Except the graphics, these things need to be bold. Chris, we'll talk about the typing afterwards, because we're sticking to what we already have. We've already paid Leslie a lot of money to do it this way. It's in InDesign, so we can talk about it afterwards.
So, up through 90 is Bob Criscola?
Yeah, up to
Yep.
J
Yeah,
reserved.
although the lettering is
Forget-
messed up.
yeah.
Okay.
The lettering's got messed
We're gonna
up.
have to go
Right,
through
right.
specifically from the lettering.
Right,
It's a mess.
okay. So that goes up to 87,
J.
89.
J, reserved for future use.
Oh, yeah, on page, so he, all right, he goes to the bottom, reserve for future use. Then we go into reconstruction. So on this one, this is a little funky, I don't really understand this. Real estate, damaged by fire, blah, 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 I don't know why we wouldn't give people 1 year.
Where are
Deter-
you?
On the
Top of
top
page
paragraph,
91.
top paragraph, we give reconstruction or alterations is commenced in 240 days. I think we can say 1 year. 240, I don't even know where that comes from.
This has already been done. This was one of the things that you included. It's 5.2.
Yeah, I agree. I understand.
But you've already plunked it back on,
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
you're
where
right.
this
This is
co-
5.2.
Two.
You're right.
you're-
But this is called reconstruction because the other one's called deconstruction. Destruction, sorry.
right, so it should just stay with non-conforming use.
Yes.
Yes. So we delete K because we're going to add that section back in. But Jeff's
But-
point is, should it go to a
It
year
should be,
instead
I
of
think it should be
240
1
days?
year. I don't think it should be 240 days. So wherever it is.
Currently, it's
5.2.
240 days.
5.2.
Currently, it's 240.
Use
I know.
1
No,
year.
I'm just.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Okay.
Instead,
Why not give people more time?
240 days.
So just say within 1 year of the date of such damage or destruction.
So,
So why is
you've got
height
height.
limitations appear under, I don't know.
Basic standards.
You've already
It
got
should be under
height.
basic standards, right? Why is it all the way out here?
Well, you've already got it in another section.
I think so.
Take it.
There's a reason why this is a blur.
Where are you looking?
Well, this is stormwater management. A, B, C, D, F, G, wait a minute, H.
Reconstruction, height limitation says C 4.C building massing.
General
Okay.
data.
And then when you get down to heights, we have.
The height
here-
limitations shall be
Wait a
exceeded
second.
as follows, provided that such features are only
Is this
requisite.
all under
Well, this
stormwater
talks
management?
about cupolas and chimneys, is the other thing
Yeah,
talk about?
but the other thing talks about that too.
Yeah, this is all under stormwater management, though.
Where's stormwater?
Well, I think,
Starts on page 83.
Makes sense. Not.
well, it
Right.
shouldn't.
Yeah, it's 5.7.
Right,
It's all under stormwater management.
yep.
Well, no, actually, funky, that's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, it is, because.
So this
here
should
is
have its
5.4.
own heading. It's a letter.
Right,
Yeah, right, it goes to a different letter, but it's still under
it's still under stormwater management.
and it's in section 5.7, which is stormwater management.
Management, exactly. And why is it just,
So it should be 5.8.
Well, could be.
Or why
5.
doesn't it go back under general requirements?
Well, that's why I was just checking to see where we already had it, because we already had height stuff somewhere. Say it was-
So where do you think it is in it? Do we have the cupolas and the chimneys talked about, flagpoles, rooftop equipment, is that in another section?
Yeah,
Which one?
that's what I'm looking for.
Oh, sorry. And then, and this talks about gas station, drive-in tellers, and similar canopies.
Because it's under building massing,
You got a page there?
63. And then you took out things about height because the height was in the table.
Well, does the table have the cupolas and chimneys?
Well,
I don't think so.
on page 63, it says, "A spire, tower, or belfry on a religious institution or public building may exceed the height limitations of the underlying zone, but shall not exceed the allowed height by more than 50 feet."
Okay, well, that's pretty serious, actually. That's a lot more than what we're showing.
And exceed 10% of the roof area. So
So
that's-
here we talk about the cupola or chimney shall not be
20%.
more than 20% higher.
In the total building.
I like that better, by the way. 50 feet is, what happens if the church is one story? 8, 10 feet, and then you have the steeple go up 50 feet.
So this is contradictory to what you have in 7 on page 63.
Okay, so I'm looking at that now.
Well, except but the preceding paragraph is the exception, right? Height limitations of these regs may be exceeded as follows,
Right.
provided that such features are only erected to such heights as are necessary to accomplish the purpose they're intended to serve. So it's built in that they know these are exceptions, but it's limiting the exception. Right? That's how I'm interpreting it.
But 7 already tells you that
Right.
it's an exception that you're exceeding, that those things can exceed the height limitations.
Well, let's just change that 50 feet to 20%. Can we do that?
Sure.
Is that cool?
So go back to 73.
On page 63.
Right. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Exceed the allowed height by more than 20%.
20%. Okay.
And
And then-
let's see, B is, well, hold on one second here. Then we exceed 10% of the roof area. We don't talk about that over here at
Yes,
all.
you do.
Yeah, it says
Shall not exceed
5%.
5% of the roof area.
On page 91?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, oh,
Cupolas or chimneys. They're only talking about cupolas or chimneys
Right.
here.
Right.
well, this is,
Well, this is, you're talking about two different things. This is limited to religious institutions or public buildings, the way it's written. On
Or-
page 63.
Right. And this is only cupolas or chimneys, which could.
For
be-
anything.
For anything,
Right.
right.
okay, so
So
having
it's
said
okay.
that, I think we should still do the 20% because that means somebody
That's
could
fine.
technically put a cupola on their house that's 50 feet. So we could think about that a little bit, unless
But
it
shall
was,
not exceed
unless it's
5%
next to
of the roof
Skolnick's
area is
house, then
fine.
it's okay. They'll, you know what they'll be doing,
Right.
they'll have
That's
binoculars
fine.
up there.
Here,
everything.
it's 10% of the roof area.
But that's for a spire tower belfry.
Spire tower, belfry, cupolas or chimneys, yeah.
I
Oh,
could see that
spire.
you might want a belfry to be 10% of the roof area. You want it to stand out, because
Yeah.
that's what they do on churches.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay, the 10%'s okay. It's the
So do
height
you
that
want to
was,
leave this here, or do you want to meld it into the building massing?
Well, it says also see section 4.3.
This is section 4.1.
Is this where I say I give up?
no, you're doing fine.
You're right, it's 4.1. It doesn't make sense that it's here,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
it's under stormwater
So I
management, so
would- I
yeah,
would-
move
I-
it.
But you're not really moving it to 63, though. So,
We'll move it to the start of, I don't know, it's not really a general requirement, is it?
But I mean, you've already got rooftop mechanicals, and this applies to buildings in residential zones, well, at least T3, D, and BB.
So maybe we go back to what you had suggested at the start, Chris, and we just make height limitations section 5.8. Because it already says refers to, and we have to just make sure it's.
Or we have reserved
section-
for future use and make it just 5.8, that's easy,
Right,
and take out
right, and we just then make sure that it refers to the rate, also see
height
section
limitations.
4.1.
Yes. Agreed.
okay, so we're,
Just make
So
Make
L is
this
going to become
here-
5.8,
Mm-hmm.
5.8 height limitations.
and we get rid of the reserve for future use 5.8.
Yep.
Right.
And then how about M?
No.
okay. What am
I don't know
where's,
why that's,
where is M? Oh,
It's just,
lot splits and lot.
It's just there.
Maps depicting, okay, hold on one second first.
this should just be titled miscellaneous. the only place lot splits appear in the
Well,
regs.
don't we have a thing on lots?
Well,
We
there
have
is,
lot
there
lines
there
in
is only,
section
there-
2.
you only need really one paragraph to talk about lot splits and lot line revisions.
But, I mean, I think we have another section where we talk about lots, and it would make more sense to plop it in there
agree.
than have it in the middle of,
We have all sorts of definitions in section 2. And that's really it. Then we talk about lot lines in those transect tables in section 4. Yeah, that's it. I just finally,
What page was that on?
the lot line definitions is page 11.
and that's a definition.
Those are the I get it, those are definitions
Yeah.
in 2, but lot lines appears either in definitions or in those new transect tables.
Oh, yeah, so this is where it would make sense to put it. I agree.
Under miscellaneous and miscellaneous.
Well, why
Maybe it's a
can't-
general
Why just can't we
requirement,
call it a lot, well, it is a kind of a general requirement, why wouldn't we just put under,
so move it
you
back
can
to
go
section
right
5.
after landscaping, go put in lot lines in there. Oh, well, no, don't do that.
We'll
Lot
move-
area, lot corner, lot infill, lot minimum size, so just put it in there.
Oh, you mean in the definition?
In the definitions?
That's what I'm thinking, can't we do that? Or maybe not.
No, it's just telling you what you need to do versus
Right, it's
defining
telling-
it.
Exactly. right.
Why don't we move it to section 5.2, which is general requirements, and have it
Fine.
be the last section?
Okay,
Put it
I
there.
agree. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. You believe that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, site amenities, accessory buildings, detached. This is, I mean, A is kind of funky, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that is
Okay.
standard.
Tennis courts currently and swimming pools currently, well, swimming pools have to stay a certain distance away. Tennis courts can go right now all the way up, so that would be new.
Well, actually, I don't understand that, because I know people have tennis courts on their sightline and they had to get variances.
I don't know of anybody that got a variance for that,
I'm not gonna give names out, but,
not since I've been here.
well, actually, whatever.
I mean, I know they've gotten wetlands permits, but that's about it, because it's
Well,
not a
maybe they-
structure,
Maybe it's a tennis court. I mean,
not a structure.
I don't disagree. I think tennis courts should be allowed, but it's really more for sound, it's really more for the noise for the neighbor.
I'm
That's
just
what.
saying, this is gonna be different than what you've currently been having in your
Well,
regs.
I think we should still stick to it then, because,
And if we're talking about buildings, what about sheds, garages?
well, that's an accessory building.
They have setbacks.
Right. They have setbacks.
In the table, there's a setback for
Yeah.
accessory structures. Yep.
Right, so why aren't they talked about?
So is it recreational structures?
Right,
So does that include a play set?
No.
That's what I'm just
No,
asking.
let's just,
I just don't see a swimming pool, a tennis court, I don't know what we're defining as other recreational structure as a detached accessory building.
Neither do I. It's-
So that's the, I don't understand this section.
well, so it just needs to go someplace else then. Well, we don't, but.
Or we relabel,
The reason we don't put pools and tennis courts in setbacks is because of the neighbors. That's the whole point of having a setback.
so why don't we call it outdoor recreational facilities such as?
Or accessory buildings instead of, where,
Well, A only relates to pools, tennis courts, or whatever the heck a recreational
I
structure
think we should probably take other, I don't know what other recreational structure, well, I mean, it could be a sports court.
It could be a pickleball court instead of a
Yeah,
tennis
so there's a
court.
lot of things that it could be. It's not a play
It
set.
could be a basketball court.
But having said that, there are probably people that would say that play sets should be included, they don't want noisy kids next to them.
Well, they don't want tennis courts next to them.
Well, no, I get that. Tennis court's obvious, swimming pool's obvious.
So do you want to title this recreational amenities
Yes,
Yep.
instead of
yes,
accessory
that's,
buildings?
is opposed, yes.
Was it recreational structure is what it's gonna say?
Recreational amenities.
Okay,
Okay,
right. And so we change the heading and
okay.
keep the wording.
Just
Landscape
get rid of
standards.
detached accessory buildings on the top and just say no swimming
Okay.
pools, tennis courts, or whatever.
Okay.
Jeff, you had said something in your notes about figure 5.1, that the front yard and side yard contradicts. And section 5.9, contradicts figure 5.1. Which is figure 5.1.
And that- on page 92.
Right. Oh, but this is now an accessory building, and we're not talking about accessory building, we're talking about,
Accessory.
So that's why I don't think we should be
recreational
eliminating that whole assess, I mean,
amenities. So we can just
why
eliminate
don't we
this
just
figure,
do assess, why?
because we no longer have a section on accessory buildings in this section. We changed it to recreational amenities.
And it's in that, and the accessory building's talked about someplace else.
Okay.
Well, the
That's what
3-foot
I'm asking.
minimum side
Oh,
yard that
you're
they're
asking,
showing
is it,
isn't what's in your regs.
That's the question.
It's not. It depends on the district. So some districts, residential A, it's 15 feet.
Yeah.
So the diagram,
This diagram doesn't actually work.
no.
Rear setbacks for
Which is what I was
accessory
saying
buildings
before.
shall be 5 feet from the rear property
Yeah.
line.
Okay, so we should probably take this out.
take the,
Yeah.
This was, okay, whatever.
And landscaping.
we're on page 92.
I already moved to the tree list.
I moved to the tree list.
What's a Woodbridge right-of-way?
I was going to ask that.
Where is that?
Bottom of page 92, left-hand side.
Why wouldn't that just be referred to as a street?
I'm just, I have no idea what a Woodbridge right-of-way is.
I'm assuming it's the streets that aren't state-owned.
Like Lucy Street is not. We learned this year.
Yes, we did.
So if somebody wants to plant petunias around their mailbox, which is in the Woodbridge right-of-way, which aren't listed here, they have to come visit you.
That's all. I'm gonna make it prettier.
Well, I think that's what Woodbridge right-of-way is, a street that's not a state street.
Okay.
That's what I'm guessing. I'm not saying it's called correctly, so we can, we can,
They, but must be, therefore, any, because this is any place in the town.
Right.
Yeah. A lot.
That means, so we're,
and this is talking about trees right away. It's not really talking about petunias.
Well, it
It
says
says
any
tree
tree slash plant.
Okay.
So let's just
We can
delete
cross that
plant.
off.
Let's just delete plant.
Are you in the garden club or something?
must be approved by the commission. I mean,
I plant flowers by
That's
my
not
mailbox.
listed in 5.2.
I don't think anyone's gonna come to the commission for this. We have page 93, it's got like a million trees to use.
Right.
I think we're
And
probably,
there's some really nice trees there.
exactly. I hope they use them. Too bad the state doesn't use them. Okay,
so you, instead of a Woodbridge right-of-way, what do we want to call
oh, we
it?
can call that, along the street.
A non-state road.
Town road right-of-way.
Town-owned road.
Town road right-of-way. How's that?
Well,
Okay.
Woodbridge works.
Well,
But there might be.
it will,
right-
it will until someone doesn't understand what it stands for, and they certainly understand town road.
Yes, they do.
So the idea is this is supposed to be for the average guy to go online and read the regs and not have to come in and have a discussion. Okay, cool. It's the Daily News kind of package. Okay, I'm going on 94. Any questions on this? Sidewalk standards. This is good, actually. This is
Yeah.
maybe promote some commercial
Yeah.
stuff, fences and walls.
We're actually saying that they should be, has some of the stuff in fences been in the regs? I remember you talking once about fences that are facing the wrong way. Right.
Well, that's usually just a courtesy thing.
Yeah, now it's in the regs.
I know, it's a good thing my fence is over yet. It's kind of funny because fences make great neighbors because usually people aren't getting along and there's a fight. So people put up fences.
Anyhow, outdoor lighting.
Okay, this is,
What does the buffer, oh, never mind.
where, oh. Okay. Okay.
Why does Dev 2 have a 50-foot buffer and what does it go to?
Where are you looking?
In that little table where it says table 5.3 minimum width buffer
Top
areas?
of 95?
Yeah,
Minimum width of buffer areas. I mean, we can change it, but I'm gonna guess it's because it's commercial and industrial.
And
if you're
earthen
up-
berm
And
wall.
if you're up against a residential area, or you want it to be as deep as possible, that's actually, change it you can,
Yeah, it's making Dev 2
but again, it
more
goes to,
attractive.
it goes to noise and it, right.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. Okay.
I don't suppose there's any way we could, like, require LED lights or, I mean, because
well-
this was written at a different time.
Yeah.
There wasn't the same availability and,
So what we've been finding is that there's very few places. A lot of towns have, in commercial retail, they have these like lighting requirements. But I will tell you, everybody uses LED.
So we don't have to
Everybody
say
wants
it.
to. You don't
Right.
even it's actually gone exactly the way they predicted. Everyone, they get it. Okay, I don't have to change my bulb for 20 years. Of course, call me in 20 years, see the bulb's still there. But so
right, okay, so we don't need to
everybody
address,
wants
you
it.
don't think we need
Even-
to?
You used to, I mean, at one time you had to get a fixture that was an LED fixture. Now you just can get an LED bulb.
Right.
So that's what people buy.
All right, I mean, it says, they should be located, installed, directed, blah, 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 to maximize energy conservation. So basically,
Yeah.
it's already here and it's happening, so that's all right.
Yeah, and that's what people are buying. That's what they're finding. Usually just specialty bulbs and even specialty bulbs are starting to come out LED.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting.
So when you're talking about fences,
Okay, can you give me a specific area where you're looking?
page 695, 5.14.
Yep, fences and walls any type located within
I'm
the first.
assuming you mean fencing, not deer fencing, because deer fencing typically is taller than 6 feet.
Yep, yeah, I agree. But,
And so in B, it says fences within required side and rear yards will not exceed 6 feet in height.
well, 6 feet would be a deer fence.
Deer fence is 7 feet or more.
Okay, well. I'm not really sure we have to worry about deer fencing, because deer fencing is, nobody sees deer fencing.
Well, we have people that complain about other
Well, this
people
is to make
putting
sure
up-
that nobody puts up a solid fence that's more than 6 feet.
That's why I'm asking, do we want to put solid fence,
Well, can we just say this excludes deer fencing?
or you could just say excludes deer fencing?
Okay.
They all come to our yard and eat our flowers anyhow, so that's all right.
Petunias? On the street?
Nope, I'm too far back.
Looks like a petting zoo over on Packard Road, I know. Unbelievable.
So we good?
Yeah, let's go.
Foot candle standards, right off. We're not gonna go through those, are we? Line by line. We're good with the foot candle standards? Going,
Yes.
gone. Traffic, parking, and loading requirements.
Yeah, before we get there,
Where are you?
individual services. Why, yeah,
Infrastructure, right?
yeah, individual.
98.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
under infrastructure, yeah, page.
Why do we have 2/3 vote?
Where does it say that? Where are you looking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know where you.
Right, they
Okay.
waived this
Oh, yeah, the middle,
provision.
number 3, individual services is
What
right
page?
in
98, middle of the left-hand
middle of the
column.
page, section 3.
Is this
Electric cars
by
on the road
statute?
should be placed on the ground with the except that electrical power. Appropriate for industrial. The commission may waive this provision by, well,
Is this statute?
no,
I-
but, I mean, we don't really want to wait, we want to have a good, we don't want to just have a majority vote on things like that. Commission shall waive this provision by a 2/3 vote only if the utility company has determined that the safe underground is. I mean, I will tell you, if the utility companies determine that
It's not
it's safe
safe.
underground is not feasible, who would argue?
No, I agree, that's why I.
So we can delete by a 2/3 vote, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
only if, yeah.
all right, okay,
Yep.
cool. Again, Good eye.
Oh, this is the section on parking. The real section on parking.
Right, it's the one we're keeping,
Right. And it's got the big table.
right.
I have a silly question. 4, you're requiring people to connect to water?
Which one?
4 on
For a water
page
supply.
98.
That's what that says.
Well, it says in accordance with the state public health code.
Yeah, but you don't have to force that.
But
I
you
mean,
don't
if-
have to.
You don't, if your water is good, you don't really have to.
But it-
And-
unless the commissioner of health grants an exception. Does that mean the commissioner of health has to grant the exception?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you would have to force people to connect to a public water supply if they have a well that works.
I feel like this is a statute thing.
No.
Oh, I have this.
Looked it up?
No, I'm saying if this is a state requirement, why put it in? And I have no idea if it's a state requirement. You're saying it's not a state requirement?
It is not a state requirement. You have a water line that goes all the way up Center Road goes down Rimmon, and I can tell you, point blank, that most of the people.
No, you
haven't
don't
connected.
have to. I mean,
This says you have to.
I get it. This is
Because
just,
we don't
this is
apply
just,
to
pro-
new
this is just proposed.
So why is it even in here?
I don't know, that's what we're talking, Chris.
Take it out. People don't want it, don't do it.
I mean, some people like it, they connect right in.
Yeah, okay. So we can take that out.
Okay, can we look at it the opposite way? I just gotta ask the question. Can it say, should it say, sites with a property boundary within 200 feet of an existing public water supply may connect to public water in accordance with the state public health code, period,
Instead of must.
instead of
Okay.
must?
In which
Because then,
I
But
buy
in
that.
which case, why is it even in there?
I mean, if they
What's the
want to do it,
purpose
they'll
of it?
do it. They
I don't know,
need
is there any other reason why people wouldn't be able to connect? This because it,
No. I mean, if
Okay.
they want to, they just do it.
okay, all right.
You
I
pay
just wanna
for
make
it.
sure that they can do it still.
Yeah.
All right. Okay,
You pay for the connection.
okay.
Okay.
Traffic, parking, loading.
Okay, so this is, we've gone over this a bunch, actually, to be honest with you.
So you have to make sure the tables are correct.
You mean where they're listed?
Yeah, table 4.2 is one we got rid of, and we
Yeah.
renamed the shared parking 4.2.
Again, this is like one of these tables that's gonna change as we add
And the
things.
tables are, it's screwed up in terms of, under animals, for instance. It's highlighted and then, but you have cemeteries,
Oh, yeah,
business
yeah, we
and
talked
personal
about this
service,
before.
civic,
Yeah, we talked about this before.
you know. And under food service, it should be outdoor dining, not cafe, because that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
And also funeral will belong under food service.
Well, no, that's supposed to be green. That's supposed to be green.
It gotta be something, because it doesn't belong under food service.
No, it depends. Yeah.
No, under
Roadkill.
any circumstance.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't. Yeah. Okay. Page 100. Oh.
The reference under parking spaces to three-family homes should be deleted. We don't allow three-family homes
Yep.
any place.
Where are you?
Page 100.
Well, we have-
7B and 7C.
Well, you have you can put apartments in there. Maybe it should be except for those 1, 2, and
A
multi-family
multifamily is fine.
instead of 3.
And the numbering here is all screwed up, but that's okay.
Okay, so we gotta fix that.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna make people figure it out.
Well, it's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, force should be 1 again, right?
Yeah, and then page 101, the parking aisles and the 90-degree parking. And they should be numbered in some way, shape, or form.
5.4.
Yeah,
5.6 and 5.
7, whatever it is, it should be numbered.
Isn't that the number?
No. Oh, you're talking about, I was talking about here.
Oh,
Here.
got it. Well, wouldn't that just be, it's part of number 2? When it talks about queue spaces.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if somebody
No,
needs
I
to
get it.
reference it, there's no, you can't reference it.
I'm gonna have to do more work on this thing.
This numbering and lettering is really messed up.
Yes.
Which one?
Just all the numbering and lettering in this section. Compact spaces should be 5, 6, 7.
Actually, it's not that much more,
I
because
know.
the end of it is all exactly the same.
Exactly.
No change
Right,
whatsoever.
exactly. Let's see now. Oh, so we're moving on here?
Yeah.
So did we change anything?
No.
Are we on, what page are you on?
I moved to 105.
Just 102. Here again, a traffic study, they're talking about 2/3 vote of the commission.
Where is this?
102,
1B,
1B.
right.
Traffic survey required for all drive-through application lots, especially waive. Well, I mean, that's okay. I mean, what's wrong with that?
By 2/3 vote,
Yeah.
as opposed to just a normal majority vote?
Well, yeah.
I'm just asking. And there's also, under here, there's also a 2/3 vote.
I don't understand.
Well, they wanted to be very clear that it's more than, it's not just a, I'm guessing, I'm assuming what that is. There are some things that, other towns are in.
I'm just pointing it
No,
out.
I know. I'm just trying to understand it too.
Hmm.
And does that mean you need 6 full members here when you go to waive it, rather than a majority?
It's okay.
Right. Which means you wouldn't be able to vote on it.
Right.
Tonight.
Okay. People are happy with it, that's fine.
I don't feel that strong about it. I mean, you want to just call it a majority vote?
Hmm?
You want to just call it by?
Yeah, I would normally just call it by majority, but
Right, because if we have 5 people present,
You
all
can't.
5 have to vote for it.
Well, it wouldn't be two.
No, all I'm saying is a simple majority, 3 wouldn't work.
no.
You
So
have 4 or 5.
you could have 4 or 5, right. I just don't know why it's not majority, but I don't know.
Okay, so
I don't know.
I'm agreeing with that. I don't know why either. So we can just say that
Change
it can be,
quarters to majority.
but
on
it be,
those two.
but by a vote. And I think that's pretty clear. Then it's
Yeah,
just
by a vote is
who
just-
wins the vote.
Right,
Okay.
by a vote
Yeah,
of
so
the
you don't have to
commission.
change it to majority, but just
Yeah.
okay. All right. So
105.
now I have all sorts of this repeats in here.
Yeah.
You want an
Yeah,
affirmative vote, you don't want a negative
It's
vote.
really not different from site plan.
Well,
It's the
that's-
same thing.
I mean, if you had a denial, and it was a majority denial, does that mean you waive it?
No, that's not what that means.
So I'm saying I added in affirmative vote. By an affirmative
you
vote.
need to-
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay, wait a minute, I take that back. So these things are actually, I have these things marked, these are the pages right out of our existing regs. So.
Where are you?
On 105. So enforcement regulations, that's page 114 in our regs, in our existing, which by the way, aren't in great order either, by the way. I've learned as I've spent all this crazy time
Right, it's in the email I sent. A number of this is new, because we couldn't find matches.
on here. Well, I did. Well, it's not, I'm not gonna tell you the whole thing, but the whole right side, the whole left side I did.
Right. I'm just quoting what you said, Jeff. It's in the email I sent. On page
Oh.
105, the left side matches somewhat existing page 114. The right side, you didn't find.
Right. Okay, right.
And the right side is really not different from the left side.
Well, that's not true. No, it's completed.
Take a look what's involved, and you'll see that it's really not that's the site plan.
Well, one talks about regulations and one talks about special exceptions. The whole right side is all about special exceptions.
Yeah. Actually, the left side's application for shall include the following.
That's where it starts.
That's right.
So it starts special exceptions there, and the right side is still talking about special
There's a
exceptions.
threshold for granting. I don't understand what.
Well, it's really just I mean, you can put whatever word in there you want, but that's how you determine it. You have to consider the plan of conservation and development, you have to consider B, you have to consider C, you have to consider all those things when you're making a decision. So it actually helps the commission in explaining how they're voting. So page 106 is all new.
Yeah.
107, the left side is new. But it's all about special exception, approved plans, suspensions.
107 is site plan and zoning permits being issued.
Right. Well, the right side is right off of our existing regs 115. Yeah.
I'm just saying this isn't special exceptions, this applies to any site plan.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at when I was going through 106. These are just requirements for presentations, site plan information stuff. Because I don't see a problem with any of this.
Do we have to put anything in here about requiring performance bonds? That we have the power to require performance bonds?
It is in here someplace.
I didn't see it. That's why I'm asking. Maybe I just missed it.
I mean, it would be helpful for you to put it in,
Okay.
Do we have it in the existing regulations?
not in,
So how do we require a performance bond if it's not in our regulations?
you've been doing it.
Yes, I didn't say that.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Supposed to have a set
for
of rules.
instance, in the wetlands regulations, there's specific language that says you can require a bond for whatever, and it doesn't have to be big language, it just,
No.
No,
it just says,
That's
so
why I'm just
if we've been
Page-
requiring one
page
and it's not
110
in here, I
at
don't
the
know why
top,
anybody
there's a
said
section
yes.
called performance bond.
Is
Which
it?
one?
That's why I was asking. I didn't know.
I thought it was on it,
Page 110.
May, if it deems that it require a bond considered a corporate surety, leather guarantee. Thank you.
so, yeah, I thought I read it in here.
Fine, I just didn't remember.
I figured we'd
That's
get
why
it to it eventually.
That's why I was asking.
But don't worry, because we do even if we're not.
Just
I
wanted
guess that's allowed. And then on 111, at the bottom, the map shall contain the following, that's out of our regs, 115 through 116.
Yeah, that's all 6.3.
112 is all out of our existing regs. 113 is out of our existing
Yes.
regs.
Now you're into section
One-
8.
115, section 9,
13 is 10.
that's out of page 118.
15 is 11, and our reg
116 matches section 12,
12.
so.
So
Okay.
section 11 is sections 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, with the
Yeah.
exception of 16.4.
Yeah, on page 125, when you get there.
Yeah, it's 125 starts on right here. We
No,
get,
no, I'm saying page 125.
oh, sorry. I
When you get
apologize.
there. Yeah, everything is
Okay.
exactly the same.
Okay, good. Okay.
They just miss picking up something.
Yeah, 16.4 is,
Okay, 125, I'm looking.
Yeah, the missing 18.1 through 18.1 through 18.3.
And what
And
page is that?
16.
137? Yeah, that's what that is, 137.
Yeah, it's missing.
I have a question mark in here. Which one is this one?
Yeah, manufacturing record, that's what they're missing.
Oh,
They're missing this.
yeah. No, no, wait a minute. You're calling it out as 18. Oh,
Here.
This.
That's the missing mat.
Yeah, but I was wondering when I was reading this that it's not in there because we don't allow any manufacturing homes and recreational. Well, actually, we do allow recreational.
that's the
vehicles.
title of the existing section 16.4, but the content continues to be on the flood hazard reduction provisions.
Right.
So it's
It's
just
some-
titled wrong.
It's something that you can't delete because it's part of FEMA's stuff.
Oh, so it's in our flood zone area.
Right.
So we need to put that in here.
So you gotta put it
Yes.
back in.
Okay. So do you have that down, Chris, that's going back in there?
I-
So, and
wait a
that
minute,
also means, so that's why I thought we didn't have it in here, to be honest with you. And that also means 16.4, 2.3, 2.2, 2.1.
Yes.
So the whole 16.4 section
6.4.
needs to go back in here.
And then specific variations, 18, I have down 18.1
Where are you looking? Oh,
here. This is 18.4, this is 18.5.
I have specific situation variances on here, page 125. Oh,
So
okay.
appeals and requests, yeah, this
And
is what's
it's-
missing, is
And
the information.
139 in our,
Right. The specific situation variances is 18.4, considerations for granting variances is 18.5.
5, right, but in the existing regs, we have 18.1, 18.2, and 18.3, and that's dealing with the ZBA.
But this is part of the flood regs.
But it's part of the flood. Remember I asked Chris that at the
Yeah.
end of the last meeting, and she said it has to go in this section.
right.
Right, and so that's why I'm saying it has to go back in.
Oh.
Well, that's variance procedures. Why does?
No, it's part of the flood regs.
Well, we have specific
11.1
specific
is 12,
situations for variances.
definitions is 13.
Yes, that's for normal variances. This is for things that pertain to the flood regs, and it has to stay here because that's the way FEMA writes it.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
I just, in comparing them.
So that needs to be put back in.
Specific standards is 6, so it looks like 16.4 should go before specific situation variances. And then 18, well, just the 18 point whatevers
Yeah,
have to go back in.
right. 18.1 through 3.
And then J on page 126 is section 17.
Mm.
Yes.
And then the architectural standards.
And that's on page 138 in our
Yep. it's-
existing regs.
And
it's-
it's all
Okay.
existing.
that's-
And the numbering has just gotten worse and worse and worse
Yes,
as we go
and,
through.
when
It's
we-
just,
When I see it again, well,
it's just horrible.
We need to work on that.
the numbering is.
I think you said Sheila was gonna do it. I heard you.
I don't know about
I'm
that.
happy to proof it, because there's a lot of places where, I mean, you could just see that, it just, somebody just got turned around on it,
Yeah.
but
Okay, and then appendix 1, that's all existing
that's all
stuff.
existing.
Yes. That's the
See, I just
All
turned,
the
there's no
same.
more pages here.
architectural.
What do you mean almost?
Can I just?
I was pointing to my desk.
Can I just say that on page 129?
That's all existing stuff. And
On 129,
that's why I was able to turn the page.
I know it's existing, but
wait a
it
minute.
says
Okay, hold
species
on.
for consider, 17, number 17 on page 129
Okay, give me a second.
129 of, oh. you mean-
of the existing regs. Well, of the new, but it comes from the existing, sorry.
Okay, I'm looking
It
at
talks about the
120.
use of evergreen trees, and it says, one should consider white pines.
Oh, bad.
Bad, right, get rid of them. Those are the ones that cause all sorts of problems. They grow tall and fast, they're brittle, and they're the first ones to go in an
I
ice
agree.
storm. So
Take
we
that
shouldn't
out.
recommend them,
Now's the time.
right?
Okay. Good catch.
Plus, they're not so good at screening.
No, they're not, because they get so leggy pretty quickly.
Except there's that house on Amity Road that looks like a Swiss chalet that has all those white pines, and they're not gonna wanna see those go, but,
No, you can't make them take them down.
uh, but we
We can
shouldn't
try.
recommend
We
they
can
be
try.
planted.
We can try. All right.
Can I ask about next steps?
Next step is we have to get the changes to Sheila.
We'll talk about that.
We can talk about it.
Be done by
We
Monday,
can
right?
talk about it a lot. We actually can't change the format of anything. And it all,
Jeff, they have to be in a form that people downstairs
Chris,
can
Chris?
edit. Jeff, I'm
Okay.
sorry,
we'll have a discussion later, obviously.
fine. I've already done 90% of this.
You could, that's okay, but it's still going back because you didn't do it in InDesign, so you don't have any of the graphics in it that InDesign has.
I've copied the graphics in.
Okay, that's not what we're doing. Whatever. Spent so much time talking about it. Are we done with the meeting?
Move to adjourn?
Second. All right.
Excellent.
Aye.
Thanks.